Hi everyone, Trip Richards here, TripleXTransMan. I had the opportunity to participate in an interview with Xtube Official, rocking the hat here. I have been involved one way or another as an adult worker for a little bit over 6 years. I got started just like small stuff, selling pictures and videos individually, and now I am a full-time adult content creator working across multiple platforms full-time. For me, it's been a really positive part of my life. For me, it is a career, it is a profession that is not only putting a roof over my head, but giving me a lot of really amazing opportunities within the industry. I get to explore so much about myself, and I also have the opportunity to help other people explore their own interests and give them an outlet for discovering something new about themselves or their interests, which I think is a really beautiful thing. I think because I've been an adult content creator for a number of years now, I've really grown and evolved in my own life anyway. I'm turning 30 this year. I started when I was, 24. So it's definitely been a progression throughout my 20s of me growing as a person. Most specifically, I started in the adult industry before I transitioned. I am a transgender man, female to male trans. I started my transition about 5 years ago and really continued doing adult work through all of that, through all of those changes. So being in the adult industry has really been a portion of my growth and of my transition, becoming more and more myself. So that's been a really amazing process for me. I've also had the opportunity to learn much more about myself as a person through my work. I think I've gotten much more comfortable speaking to people, being in social settings, certainly being in sexual settings. I have a tremendous amount of confidence and just experience now that I am really grateful for. This one's actually a hard question for me to answer because people's experiences within the industry can vary so widely. I would say that mine has been very positive, but I also do not want to discount the narratives of people for whom adult work just doesn't suit them as well. You know, it's either not healthy for them for one reason or another, or it doesn't help them fulfill their own potential. So I always tell people when they come to me with this question, because I definitely get asked it quite a bit, make sure that you know what you're signing up for. Make sure you understand that once your image is out there on the internet, it will always be out there. Some people are not comfortable whether sharing this with family, friends, potential future employers, and I totally respect that. I mean, starting adult industry, starting porn is definitely something that people should do, knowing what it entails and knowing what the potential future ramifications might be. I decided quite a long time ago that I did not really care about those things, but it's definitely a downside and definitely something that people should give long and hard consideration to. Other than that, the advice that I give people who are interested in starting in the adult industry are treat it as a job. It is absolutely 100% a job. You cannot treat it as a hobby. You can't just create content, post videos when you feel like it. You have to do it consistently on a schedule, just like you would if you were working any other profession. You also have to find a way to interact with people, including fans who may or may not always be pleasant or polite or supportive, and find a way to really have that strong internal sense of self. People who are easily offended, the adult industry is probably not for them. People who take comments personally, probably not a good industry for them. I mean, you really have to have a thick skin in this business, but I have personally found that having all those interactions, having all those kind of comments and feedback, and learning how to really navigate them for myself has actually made me a much stronger person along the way. I would say yes and no. Yes, insofar as everyone can be a porn star now. I mean, literally all you need is a smartphone and internet connection, and you can do porn. And that's a really cool change within the industry, going from centralized, like people just working in studios, to decentralized, where everyone can be their own boss, create their own content, hosts their own site. But on the other hand, there's still a tremendous and paradoxical amount of stigma within the industry and towards the industry by the larger population. A lot of people think that sex workers are either perverts, which some of us are, but in a positive way, or that we are all being exploited, which unfortunately does happen, but is not the story of the industry. It's the story of some particular individuals. Or people have a lot of self-imposed shame about sex. So for those people, when they see other folks living openly, being sexual, being unashamed, living without fear and stigma, it makes those people really uncomfortable. And unfortunately, their discomfort can come out in the form of hate or discrimination. So as somebody in the adult industry, I have to deal with all of those different factors in the audience that's looking at me. And I think that the third one, people coping with their own shame, is actually the most prevalent, and it's one that I personally fight in my own work to deal with. Because I don't want anyone to be ashamed of their interests, with the caveat that we should all be engaging with consenting, enthusiastically consenting adults. But as long as everyone is a happy, consenting adult, there should not be the shame and stigma about exploring what somebody's passions are, or really gets them going. And unfortunately, a lot of people in society still have that shame, and therefore do not know how to approach people like myself who are living so openly. I think it makes them really uncomfortable, and fear and lack of understanding can come out as bigotry. I think the best thing that all of us, both adult industry and outside of the industry, can do is have really open narratives, really honest conversations about how they're feeling, and hopefully come to an understanding that pornography is healthy, it's normal, just like sex is healthy and normal. For me, this is my full-time career. That's definitely changed, though. When I first started, it was a very, very, very small side business, I guess. It was more like a hobby at that point. I wasn't making a lot of money. It was just something that was helping to supplement my income, and I was really just kind of feeling it out. But gradually, over the last 6+ years, I have become a full-time adult worker, and with everything that's going on in the world currently in 2020 with the coronavirus pandemic, I have definitely transitioned myself to being exclusively a self-employed, self-producing content creator. Basically what that looks like for me is that I am filming new videos, whether solo or partnered, several days a week, and the time in between I structure with editing, handling uploads, conversing with fans, stuff like that. So it's definitely a full-time job. You might say it's a 24/7 job because I have fans all around the world who I can converse with and who are looking to engage with me 24/7. I want to talk a little bit about my experience as a transgender person. I'm a transgender guy. That means that I transitioned from female, which I was born as, in a female body, to male, which is the most authentic way for me to live my life and express my gender and my personality. So I transitioned about 5 years ago. I was pretty new in the adult industry at that point, and obviously now I am, male, masculine, and live as a man, but my body is still not, or isn't, I should say, it's not changing. My body isn't standard issue male, let's say. So as a trans person, I definitely have to fight some other stigma and some other preconceived notions that people have. I personally do that through my porn. I get to share with my audience my own authentic body, my own authentic interests, both sexual and otherwise. And what I found is that that has given so many of my viewers over the years the opportunity and the space to explore their own interests. I hear from so many people in my audience, which is primarily gay men, that they have never seen a trans guy before me. And in fact, they didn't even realize that they were into it until they saw me. And I think that that's such a beautiful thing to help other people expand their own horizons and hopefully destigmatize things along the way. Because most people have never interacted with a trans person, or at least not with a trans person that they knew was trans. You know, they may have passed them on the street and didn't even know it. So I think giving regular folks out there an opportunity to have a personal and intimate connection with a real live breathing trans person is really important for folks to realize, hey, we're all people, we're all guys, in my case. We all have bodies that look a little different and function a little different, but at the end of the day, it's all about having a good time, finding pleasure, finding connection, finding compatibility, and there's really nothing to be scared of. I think that there's a very, unfortunately, common human tendency that when there's something that we don't understand or are not familiar with, that we tend to be discriminatory towards it. So I try in my own way as an adult worker to give people out there a space to explore themselves and also hopefully take that newfound knowledge out there into the world and be a little bit more open to diversity. That at the end of the day would be the absolute best outcome of somebody who gets to know me through my porn. I have found myself becoming increasingly interested in group sex. I didn't have a lot of experience sexually before I started in the adult industry, and most of my experience, even within the industry, was, one-on-one situations. But really in the past year or so, I've started doing more and more like 3-ways, then I had a 4-way, then I had a 6-way, then I've done some like big groups. And that's definitely something that I want to have more experiences with. I love the dynamic of lots and lots of people all playing together. All the different combinations and permutations of that I think are just so much fun. And it's just really a chance to let loose, no judgment. Nobody's watching because everyone else is busy too. Just go for it. So I think that's one of my biggest goals going forward. Both personally as well as obviously as part of my work, is to have more really great group and orgy experiences. So I'm excited for that. So when I got started, in the adult industry, I really had no idea where it was going to go. I mean, I didn't plan to be famous or anything, and I still have kind of a uncertain relationship with fame as a principle. But the reality is I am one of the top, if not the top, transgender, trans male performers out there. I have a really big audience on social media, and there's, well over 100,000 people who follow me. And that's kind of crazy. I'm just a small town boy. I live in a rural area still. It never occurred to me that I would be like a symbol of any sort. But here I am. So I'm really finding ways to navigate that and to still keep my own, authentic self, which is just a simple small town guy, but also realize that a lot of people look up to me, follow me day to day. What's he doing? Where is he today? How's he feeling today? What new thing does he have for us today? There are people who really follow me closely, and I feel a lot of obligation to them to always be kind of on my game, providing them good content, providing them good narratives out there. But at the same time, kind of navigating that has been a really interesting experience for me. I still don't feel like I should be the definitive voice on anything. I can tell my own story as a porn star. I can tell my own story as a trans person. I can tell my story as Trip Richards. But what I can't do is speak for anyone else. And I think that there is a tendency that we kind of put some people up on a pedestal and expect them to speak for a larger group of people. And I really resist that because it's not my story to tell. It's every individual's story to, explain who they are and be given the space to do so. But I know that a lot of my audience sees me as being a little bit more definitive than that. So I always try to give space for other voices. When I work with other co-stars, for example, I really promote them heavily. I want to drive, traffic their direction. I want my fans to follow them out also. I try to give a voice to diverse performers. So everybody isn't, all the same age or the same color or the same look. I myself am very eclectic in what I'm into, and I work really hard to let my co-stars be very eclectic also. So I feel like in those ways I try to give my fans, my audience, what they want, but also remind them it's a big world out here, and I'm me, and only me. So I don't want people to kind of extrapolate too much. I think there is a tendency to do that and to, assume that one person's narrative is really reflective of everybody else's. And I know, especially as a trans person, that is absolutely not true. So many different trans people have different stories, good, bad, just different than myself. And I would never, ever want to speak for them. I can educate my audience about my body, my preferences about my body, my transition story. But what I can never do is speak for literally any other trans person. And I always try to remind people of that. I can explain how I feel about things, but if you want to know how other people feel, go ask them. I think that pretty much answers the questions there. Thanks so much for the opportunity to speak up here. And don't forget to follow me. I am Trip Richards. I am at TripleXTransMan on Twitter. I assume the links will get dropped here also, but my Twitter is a great way to follow me. It is at TripleXTransMan. TripleXTransMan. Alright, thanks guys.